We have a breaking story to tell you about this hour. CBC News has learned that Black members of the civil service, the Canadian Public Service, both current and former members, have launched a lawsuit against the government, alleging decades of discrimination that kept them from advancing in their careers.
The suit aims to represent tens of thousands of employees alleging decades of anti-Black discrimination.
The class action lawsuit alleges systemic discrimination toward Black public employees, specifically that they face discrimination in the hiring process and when up for promotions, dating back to the 1970s.
A group of Black civil servants is turning to the courts to address their claims of discrimination against the federal government. The current and former civil servants have issued a proposed $900 million class action lawsuit against the federal government, alleging it discriminated against Black employees for decades. The proposed claim maintains the government excluded Black federal employees from being promoted. And Lucy, make no mistake, this is a major development, a significant, a landmark case, $900 million that has implications for organizations and institutions across the country.
The first part of this action is to address damages. If you acknowledge that Blacks are being oppressed, if you acknowledge that these damages are there, then the first thing is to compensate Black workers for these damages. And then secondly, to address the future, we need to create systems to prevent those damages from continuing. We need to address that by ensuring that our public service is reflective of the Canadians that we serve.
This is Union Matters with Nicholas Thompson.
Good evening. Welcome to Union Matters. It's a program where we shine light inside our union institutions, revealing difficult but necessary conversations as each of us struggle to build stronger unions that can capture the attention of our membership and create a welcoming space for workers to build confidence and to win what is rightfully theirs. My name is Sean McNeil. I'll be your guest host for tonight, and thank you, Nicholas, for entrusting me with the show yet again. Tonight, we bring you a quick update on a topic we covered recently concerning the CLC Chamber of Commerce joint endorsement of Bill Morneau to head the OECD. But first, I'll be speaking with a guest that you will well know. And before we get there, we're going to head right back into a clip show. And if everyone is patient with us here, we'll watch one more clip and get started in the discussion. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Phillips. I currently am employed with Canada Revenue Agency. I will be retiring after 30 years of service with the agency at the end of this year. In the 30 years I've been there, I've only received one promotion. I know that seems daunting, and it was. It's not for not trying. When the opportunity came, those that did not look like me were the ones that garnered the position. It's been trying, disappointment, to the point that you just not have confidence in the process and you just stop trying. And that is the case for a lot of the Black employees currently at my workplace. You just give up. It doesn't matter. It just seems like it doesn't matter what you do. There's always a justification and an excuse as to why you are not the successful candidate in this respect. It's even disheartening to see that these individuals that I've trained have gone on to leadership position. A number of my colleagues repeatedly asked me, Jennifer, why aren't you in a leadership role? You should be. And I said, well, the opportunities has been denied to me over the years, and I just am not encouraged to continue. And so after 30 years, I'm retiring with just the one promotion. I'm a proud mother of 2 sons. I'm a proud grandmother of 5. I'm worried about my ability to be able to travel to visit my grandchildren. At this stage in my career, I had hoped that I would have been at some management or a higher leadership position. My pension is based on the best 5 years of my career 30 years with one promotion, that's not the best.
I'm just saying that black workers matter, okay? We're liberated in love, but it starts with yourself. Go ahead and free yourself from the hate you feel. We're no longer the same. We're not separate, but...
So what you just saw there was one of several video clips which have been produced, and you can, of course, visit blackclassaction.ca to hear some of the stories that are already being shared as part of this historic class action lawsuit. But to talk a little bit further about it, I want to welcome now our guest for this evening, and you will all know him very well because, of course, it is Nicholas Thompson, your normal host for the show. So welcome tonight, Nicholas.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So, Nicholas, it's been a while since you and I have had a one-on-one conversation. So maybe the best place to start would be how are things? How's everything going?
Well, Sean, things are, it's been very busy. We have been receiving calls nonstop from people across the country, both supporting what we're doing, as well as, you know, sharing their own stories of pain and suffering in Canada's public service.
Yeah, and you know, I've been recently in some union spaces where the lawsuit came up, and of course, following on the news stories, it's had me thinking as well critically, frankly, about how this issue impacts my local office, my union local, and the departmental workers that I engage with, the different facilities that I engage with in the course of my own role in the union and in my own career. I know, of course, it's going to be a long fight for you guys, and we'll get you know, extra layers of complexity for the benefit of our viewers tonight, and for those who will be watching the recording later on. I thought I'd ask a few kind of basic orientation questions for people who maybe are less familiar with either the lawsuit or maybe are not familiar with the why of what's happened here. And to start with, I really wanted to start with the union endorsements that you've received. So could you go through who has officially endorsed this class action lawsuit and anything else you might want to share on that point?
Well, I'm very proud to share with you that the Public Service Alliance of Canada has been the first organization and union to support this action, and they will be seeking intervener status in the case. And for those of you who are not aware of what that is, basically they will be applying before the court. Although they have not brought the action before the court, they will be applying to the court to intervene on behalf of many of the workers that are part of the claim, who are past and present PSAC members. So they have, you know, the national president, I had reached out to him, Chris Aylward, and he wrote me back, and he said that we're standing in solidarity with Black workers, and his leadership has been exemplary in this regard. I really believe that it's a turning point for us in terms of being represented on this particular issue, Sean. And those of you who would have, you know, been familiar with the show, we have not always been able to say that that Black workers are being supported by our union. So I'm proud to share that we've turned that corner, and we're receiving an enormous amount of support. And I just want to thank Brother Aylward for his leadership, for his strong leadership, and making this decision, supported by his National Executive Vice President Sharon D'Souza on this file. So PSAC is our number one supporter on this, also supporting. We issued a strong statement of support and recommended changes to the public service legislation is the Association for Joint Counsel for Justice Council, I'm sorry. They are the association that represent lawyers in the Justice Department and Public Prosecutions Canada, and throughout the public service. They represent 2,600 lawyers throughout the federal public service, and they are also supporting this action. Those are two major supporters. Other unions have also jumped on board. The Union of Taxation Employees, my component, has issued a statement of support. We anticipate other components as well. Any organization can issue a statement of support standing in solidarity with Black workers. This does not have to go up to a higher union if you're a part of a component, or it is really a matter for that body to make that decision to support Black workers. And it's very simple. While it is a simple gesture, it goes a long way in supporting Black workers. We also have the Federal Black Employee Caucus, which issued a statement of support. We also have the Canadian CBTU, the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists, has also issued their support, and we're grateful for that support. And we continue to receive an outpouring of support, and calling on all organizations, private, public, religious, to issue statements of support for Black workers, for thousands of Black workers who this claim is seeking to represent, and for the future generation of Blacks in Canada's public service.
And so kind of stepping a few steps ahead then to a call for action that I'm hearing in there is if you are a union activist or leader or member who's watching the recording tonight or in the future, and you would like to help along this process of endorsement, because of course it matters who is supporting the Black class action publicly. You would want to have statements from labor councils. You're supportive of statements from local union bodies. It sounds like you have an appetite for any endorsements or any statements of support that you can receive. Is that right?
That is correct. Across Canada, regardless of who you are, whether you're an individual or a corporation, or we're seeking a wide range of public support on this.
Excellent. And of course, then, for people who are watching who may be somebody who's interested or curious as to whether they are someone who might benefit from this class action and may want to sign up or get to know more. First of all, of course, it is blackclassaction.ca. And I've visited the site, and I do see there's a nice big button there that if you would like to join, press the button. But a question maybe that is a little bit less obvious to advertise, one that I'm sure people may be curious about is it an anonymous process? What risks, if any, are there if you're somebody who would like to be represented in the case formally? What might that person watching need to know?
So, Sean, basically, the representative plaintiffs, of which I am one of 12, have assumed all the risk of being publicly identified, right? So anyone that signs up now will be considered, once it's certified, that to be a class member, right? So there's absolutely no risk to signing up. It's completely anonymous. It goes to our legal team, who then goes through it to see, to assess the level of damages, injuries, and to see if that's one of the stories that would be worth, bringing forward, or one of those stories that you would have seen earlier on, right? So it's really to assess the information and to have a good idea of the amount of Blacks that are in the public service, and to connect with the community. But once the suit is certified, it will cover automatically all Black workers across the federal public service between 1970 and present. So we're really asking all eligible Black workers, regardless if you're in management, regardless of anywhere that you worked within the federal public service, to click to sign up for the lawsuit.
And I'm sure, well, I know for sure that there are people who have been following this development online and perhaps are asking, why now, or what exactly do these plaintiffs want out of the government? And of course, I asked that question to you now, acknowledging that this is a particular process, and you may not be able to really comment on everything at this time because you haven't even certified as a class action yet. But to the extent that you can answer the question, what is it that you would be hopeful for as part of outcomes over this dispute?
Well, to answer your first question, Sean, I don't think there's ever a convenient time to stand up for what is right and just. I don't think there's a convenient time to fight to end systemic discrimination in Canada's public service. I don't. What we are seeking here is what we have observed is that there has not been concrete action across the board to addressing this issue. And what we are seeking to do is exactly that, is to come to the table, and our voices were not at that decision-making table, right? And this issue concerns us, and we're contending that there cannot be change about us without us, right? That's very critical in this entire thing here. So we are, the government has acknowledged that systemic discrimination exists, right? And that acknowledgement in our mind constitutes a further acknowledgement of the damages that Black workers have faced. So if there are damages through systemic discrimination, then we need those who have been damaged to be compensated for those damages, one. And then secondly, Sean, we need to ensure that those damages do not continue by ensuring that Canada's public service is equitable and representative of the people that we serve. And what we are really seeking to do here is to open Canada's public service at all levels for Blacks across the country, right? So what that means is that entry-level positions, Blacks should be represented based on its representation in the population. At mid-level management, at senior management, at executive ranks, Blacks should also be represented within those categories. So we're seeking to have that representation across Canada's public service. And as you could imagine, that would have rippling effects for generations to come.
Absolutely. And so I wish you best of luck in the proceedings. I'm sure I'm going to be speaking to you again before it's all over. Before you go, I have one question for you on a separate but very related note, and that is the Tropicana workers' strike in Toronto. This is something that's outside my wheelhouse. I'm not in Toronto, and it's a community organization that represents people who don't look like me. Could you just do a short explanation on that strike? And I have been following it on Twitter, and I did see that there were a little bit of movement today, but as I understand it, these workers are still struggling to be heard by their employer.
Yeah, Sean, it's simply egregious what workers are facing at Tropicana, and namely Black and racialized workers. It's and that's the community that they serve, mostly immigrants. I myself, when I came to this country almost 20 years ago, I went through Tropicana for job search and using their facilities and whatnot. At that time, it was at Scarborough Town Centre. The majority of immigrants, I would say, that land in Toronto would have had dealings, especially from the Caribbean, would have had dealings with Tropicana and would have utilized their services. So this is very close to home for us in the Black community. And what the employer is doing to them, it's simply unconscionable, Sean. They've been on strike for quite some time now, and there has not been any significant movement. So I think it's important for labor organization to support these workers, to apply pressure on the management, apply sustained pressure, and provide any and all support that these workers are counting on, are relying on. So, and that's why we say in the labor movement, our brothers and our sisters, right? We're family. So when one family member is down, we stand in solidarity with them. If they're without food, we provide food. If they're without clothing, we provide clothing. So I'm challenging, fellow union organizations to add to the support that's being provided to Tropicana workers.
Mm-hmm. I was about to let you go, but I saw a question and I want to acknowledge it. I think it's coming on the YouTube stream, and I think I know who it's from, but Annie Singh basically asks, private sector workers, do you see something like this ever happening for Black workers in the private sector? Is it something that's come up in your discussions with lawyers and activists?
Well, this is the starting point, and the reason why we started with the federal government, because that we consider that to be at the head of workplaces in Canada. We know that once there's change at the federal level, that will trickle down to the provincial, city, and private levels. So we are attempting to set the standard here for the rest of Canada.
That's an excellent point, is the standard setting that a union and a workforce as large as the federal public service is able to accomplish. Well, Nicholas, again, I'm sure I'm going to be talking to you again before this is all over with. And I thank you for giving me the show again tonight. And thanks for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we're just going to stay together for one final moment. I wanted to update everyone on the last program that I hosted, and that was concerning the Canada Labour Congress, Canada Chamber of Commerce joint endorsement of Bill Morneau to head the OECD, an international body that exists to promote neoliberal policies, austerity, privatization, the free movement of capital across borders, matched with, of course, the deregulation of labor rights and worker rights. As we understand it, and I'm now drawing from a post that was posted by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 636, posted earlier today, and they stated the CLC Executive Committee met in Ottawa during the past week. Needless to say, they were angry at Hassan Yousaf for embarrassing the labor movement with his endorsement of former Liberal Finance Minister Bill Morneau. He admitted to the committee that he had made a unilateral decision to endorse Morneau and did not consult with the other three elected officers beforehand. A motion was passed to rescind the endorsement, and they also instructed Morneau to go to the OECD and notify them of this decision. Apparently in the course of discussion on this issue, it was also revealed by Hassan Yousaf that he was entertaining job offers outside of the CLC. He is, of course, still president, heading into what is now going to be a virtual convention in summer of 2021, but it sounds like he may be leaving earlier than that. Now, in the lead up to tonight's program, I tried my best to find any official information on this, and I found no information confirming it, except for the fact that the endorsements, both on the CLC webpage, as well as on the Chamber of Commerce webpage, as well as any social media posts from October 30th concerning this endorsement, they've all been deleted. So you will not find the endorsement that I can find anywhere, except for in union statements that were developed after October 30th, which were taking exception with the decision. So it does seem like the CLC executive did in fact reverse decision here. They've deleted their own website post, and because the Chamber of Commerce post was also deleted, I would have to assume that somebody in CLC notified and requested the Chamber of Commerce to reverse. So where does this leave us? So, you know, at the end of the last show that I was the guest host of, I made some comments about this whole concept of airing our dirty laundry in the union movement. I could go on about the loaded meanings behind this phrase and how the real need to respect privacy and follow process in some circumstances is abused as a blanket excuse for whenever a leader feels uncomfortable commenting on something. We don't want to air our dirty laundry. And I think that it will really matter whether CLC actually comes out with an official announcement on this decision, and we do have to give them time. It may have happened, as recently as yesterday, this decision, and they're not yet ready. But to put it briefly, positions of union leadership are inherently political. They're not administrators, they're not managers or communications professionals or bureaucrats. A union president is a leader of a body of workers fighting for political agency over their lives. Where a leader at any level stands on a political question matters in a serious way to the membership. Bill Morneau's time in government and in the private sector has directly impacted the material outcomes of tens of thousands of Canadian workers. And he will carry on in whatever capacity he finds himself in, advocating for policies which leave workers worse off in favor of capitalists like himself. It saddens me that our union movement feels so weak as to be unable to struggle publicly with such fundamental political questions. Should our union members have to tolerate any leader who sees neoliberal politicians and corporate lobbying bodies as allies? That will be for the members to decide, and I'm sure we will hear more about this incident come the virtual CLC convention in the summer of 2021. Of course, we do want to recognize that some leaders stood up and spoke out, but many unions inside the Canadian Labour Congress did very little or were absolutely silent. So that's all I have for you tonight. Please share your thoughts in the comments and share tonight's recording with labor activists, especially with Black union workers in the federal public service. Please make sure that current and former workers of the federal public service, not just PSAC, but any federal public workers who may identify as Black, that they're aware of the Black Class Action lawsuit. Go to blackclassaction.ca to read about it yourself. And if you're part of a union body, talk to your union comrades and find out whether there's anything you can do to put in an official endorsement or statement of support. That's all we have for you tonight, folks. Thank you for tuning in and watching, and I'll see you on the next show. Thank you.
This is Union Matters with Nicholas Thompson.